Emily, please take a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to.
Oh, this is weird because I can't hear me. You can hear me. This is strange.
Can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great.
Great.
So Emily and I are going to have a chat about what's going on in terms of bringing influencer marketing in-house. As some of you probably know, I have had a long career in advertising and marketing, but a few years ago I ran a very large influencer marketing business globally, and the challenges that we faced were quite frequently about where influencers say one thing and then maybe do something else. So it'd be really interesting to talk to Emily about her journey and about how she got to be head of influencer and marketing and social media at Boots UK. So please share with us, Emily, what's your background? How did you get here?
My background, but I always feel like, what have I done in my life when I get on stage? And I'm like, let's talk about my career. So I've always worked in social, always loved social. I remember when I was younger and I saw H&M putting all those flat lays on Instagram, and I was like, imagine doing that job, like that would be incredible. And I said to my mum, like, I was a bit of a rebel at school, and I remember saying to my mum, like, I really like media, like, shall I get into this? And it was the only thing that kind of made me tick. And I knew from then on, I was probably 16, that I knew I wanted to work in media, whatever that looked like, TV, social, and obviously as social has evolved and then influencer has evolved, I kind of went down that path. So I started my career at Next, just as like a social assistant. Absolutely loved it, always lived and breathed it. I just kind of had that fire to just be always on. I'm a bit like, I just buzz off the chaos. It's a bit weird. I feel like you have to. And then I went to Georgia Asda, did a little stint in agency life, always preferred in-house, to be honest. And then now I'm at Boots. So I'm kind of just making my way around the Midlands, I won't lie. I don't know what's next.
Well, I think one of the things about that part of the country is obviously, it's been the home of the retail industry for a very long time.
Yeah.
And great brands such as Boots and Next, they're not sort of like short in terms of their ambitions and their presence in, the British public's everyday life. And, as the previous panel we had on, their agency was called Bring Some Joy. I think, that's one of the things that these small treats that, the pleasures we get from buying ourselves nice things, like on the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
I think Next and Boots have really been absolute past masters at that. However, Boots, Boots has not always been seen as being the most nimble, agile, and fast, to market in terms of change. Tell us about your experience, because you've been there now, how long, 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years in January, so a year and a half. I won't lie, when I started at Boots, I was like, there's going to be so much red tape, we're not going to be able to do anything, but you know what, we're really lucky. So our CMO, Pete, probably a lot of you know him, everyone here, they're champions, social and marketing and influencer, and they just want more, which is so refreshing. Like, I've never worked somewhere where they're like, right, give us more, and I'm like, this is great, like, there's such an appetite for it. I think obviously there's been a lot of work on behind the scenes to kind of prove the effectiveness of all of those areas, which has led to, I guess, a lot of trust, and I guess leading to in-housing. So when I started, we had a retained agency, which was amazing. Like, they acted as a real support for us, and we had a really small team internally at the time. But actually, we noticed really early on, like, there's so much power in bringing it in-house. And there is so much power in doing everything with an in-house team that kind of lives and breathes the brand. And that's exactly what we've done. So yeah, there is no red tape, it's amazing. We can really trial and test and learn. As long as we've got that rationale and we're really strategic with it, we kind of say to our teams, like, you can fail and that's absolutely fine as long as we learn from it. So it's amazing.
So you were doing social and influencer at Next, right, as well? And over this time period, I myself have experienced enormous change in this industry and this particular sector, because it was a kind of nice to have, a sort of level, we'll give it a try. Now it's becoming increasingly the core channel for a lot of companies. What do you think has changed? What's been that journey?
I mean, it is now, I would say, taking over, which is incredible. Like, it is becoming really sophisticated and very clever as a marketing channel. And actually, it's being taken seriously by brands, which is really refreshing. I guess the biggest change that I've seen, like when I started my career, it was about those ad hoc, like one-time partnerships. It is not anymore. It's about building those really collaborative, long-term, authentic partnerships with people and having those in-house relationships. There really is a lot of power behind influencers, and I think businesses are now they're now realizing what that power is. So the marketing funnel is obviously, influencers can serve that whole marketing funnel. They're not just there for content and awareness anymore and those fluffy metrics. Actually, you can use them for whatever KPI you want. It's quite a complex ecosystem. But whatever your objective, as long as you know what that is and what that ambition is for the business, you can kind of use influencers, creators, affiliates for whatever you want to do. And I think businesses are really realising that, and they are pumping budgets into it.
Yes, they are. But I mean, when you look at the levels of sophistication that we're now able to deliver from a strategic planning perspective, how have you structured the way that you're approaching, the long-term evolution of your social media and obviously your influencer strategy? I mean, how many people are you at the moment?
I mean, we're still pretty small, to be honest. We've got big ambitions considering. We've kind of built this ecosystem that pans a few different teams in the business, which I think is where that power is. So we've got experts in performance and affiliates. We've got experts in brand and storytelling. And then we've got experts in PR and relationships. And I think bringing all those people together into one kind of squad model, one kind of team, ultimately, that's where the magic will happen. And everyone kind of has to align to that one vision. So I think historically I've worked at places where everyone's going off and working with different people, and it's a bit cringe, and you're like, you're not landing anything with impact. And I think pulling everyone together and saying, right, these are the different roles within influencer, creator, affiliates. There's 3 different kind of roles in our ecosystem, and they all deliver different things. And pulling experts in from the business to help with that, all with that one objective and one ambition, is, I guess, a recipe for success. So it is quite complex, but I think if everyone's on board and if everyone gets the vision, then you'll be on a good road to success.
Without giving any top secret information away.
I know, I'm being careful what I say. I hope there's no competitors here.
It would be really good to understand how you go about evaluating your ROI.
So obviously, with every part of that ecosystem, we use them for different things. And we are doing a bit of test and learning at the moment. There's a lot of trialing that we're doing to kind of measure the long-term effectiveness. I mean, we don't know. We launched Big by Mitchell yesterday. There was an incredible reception on social. We don't know if those people who loved his content went and bought in store. So we're just trying to kind of, I think, treat it as a real channel and build it into all of our data and actually start to build what that long-term brand effectiveness is. Obviously, you've then got your here and now data. So we look at click-through rate, we look at revenue that we're generating, we look at how much we're paying creators and then pumping it into paid and then looking at that return. We obviously look at sentiment, brand uplifts, loads of different, I would say, objectives. And I think you do need to know exactly which ones of those you're going after before you start. I think I've made the mistake, I'm sure everyone has, of bringing in a squad of influencers and just being like, they create beautiful content, let's work with them. And actually it's like, what do you actually want them to deliver? Because ultimately, the conversation is much easier with stakeholders when you can say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to measure it, this is what it's driven, give us more money.
But do you think that the actual influencers have evolved? Because I've noticed it today on this stage, we have had some very big influencers join us, and they are talking much more in the language of marketeers and of brands than they were, say, 3 years ago, for sure.
Yeah.
And they're much more kind of conscious of the analytics and the data that they need to be able to deliver. But I'm still assuming, that there are going to be those rogue bot-filled audio, fandoms that don't deliver, I mean, weren't agencies kind of like the people who were evaluating that for you previously?
Well, not really, no, because we can do that internally. We've got those skills, and I think um, we have a really good relationship with talent and with agents, so we can kind of say this is what we're trying to deliver here, and we can have that conversation to be like, oh, we've not quite hit it. Like, could we go again? Could we change the format? Could we change the channel? Is it because we didn't have a discount code? Is it because we did? So you kind of can have those conversations, and I think it's not about throwing the towel in when one thing doesn't work. I think I heard someone else say that earlier. Like, if you've got those long-term partnerships, you can test and learn different things. And I think ultimately it's their jobs. They're becoming much more sophisticated, and they want it to deliver. Like, I think historically they weren't as fussed. It was like, here's your content, goodbye, like work with you whenever. And now it's about, especially Boots, because we are a company where influencers want to work with us. They want to do a good job, and they want to learn about our side of things and how it's delivered content and how it's delivered on ROI. And then they want to learn and evolve. And then hopefully, like, as you've kind of gone through that long-term process, you get to a point where they start delivering and you start to realise what they're good for. It's like, okay, they're not going to drive revenue, but actually, when they put content out, the sentiment is incredible and our followers grow by X amount.
Right.
So that's where we would then put them in that pool. So I think it's just about using them for different things, rather than saying they don't work. So many different ways to test them.
So there's a very big part of the strategic planning piece that you are basically driving. Because if you're using influencers in terms of brand building as well as reach, as well as sales, as well as an affiliate, it's a very sophisticated, very sophisticated kind of integrated approach, which clearly, you're building that team out to deliver on. But what do you see happening in influencer over the next 2 to 3 years? Do you think it's going to continue to grow exponentially?
I hope so. Yes, I wouldn't have a job. I do think so. I think influencers are becoming, obviously it still has a bit of a bad rep, I would say, as a channel, but I do think you can't argue with the fact that the numbers are there, like the results are there, the effectiveness is very clear, and I would love them to just take over. As a channel, I really want people to take it really seriously, and I'd love it to take over other media channels. I just think it is the way forward. I think there's going to be a lot more long-term partnerships, ambassador-style relationships. I don't think you're going to see many of those ad hoc one-time wonders anymore, which I think is amazing. I think brands are going to be more sophisticated in terms of the link to the brand and the involvement that they have in that brand, and whether they link to brand values and all of that stuff. I think brands are being a bit more clever with that. And I'm excited to see how AI kind of influences the influencer market as well. I think some brands have adopted that to make processes and to make more strategic decisions. We're not there yet, but I hope in the near future we will be. And I think, it will just allow us to use the right talent for the right reasons on the right channels at scale. So I think it is still quite manual at the moment, but I feel like it's going to all become much more automated and much more strategic.
Do you think that the customer of the future, which is your customer today, but as they evolve as your customer, their levels of engagement will continue to be at the levels they are now, or do you see that as influencer and the social media content almost series-like narratives that we're finding on TikTok, for example? Do you see that is now going to become the dominant form of entertainment for the customer? I
think it absolutely will, and I think creators and influencers will be at the heart of that because they're real, they're authentic, they're human, they're genuine, and I think that's what people want. Like someone said earlier, you are on the bus or you're kind of sat waiting for an appointment and you're scrolling TikTok and you want to be entertained. Like brands that are not harnessing creators to do that and using those creators as your creative, what's it called? Creative directors.
Yes.
Using them as that, I think they're the brands that people are just going to switch off. So I think that will continue to grow, and I think it will just take over channels like TikTok. Especially the younger demographic. Like, we don't use creator content on Facebook anymore because we know they don't like it unless the influencer is right and resonates with topics that they're interested in. But I think those other younger channels like Instagram, TikTok, that's where our core audience is. That's that's where we want a perception change, and hopefully they stick with us and the influencers as it kind of evolves.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, believe it or not, we have managed to use
That's
20
20 minutes
up.
already.
Yes, I think we might have time to take one quick question or two quick questions. If anybody would like to ask Emily a question.
I feel like it's 4 p.m. and everyone's tired or had a beer.
It's the end of the day. I think probably people want to get to the bar and grab a glass of something sparkling, I should imagine.
Don't blame
Emily, I would really like to thank you so wholeheartedly for
very
coming here
much.
today and being so candid with us. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the greatest of success with your work at Boots. Put your hands
you.
together for Emily. Thank you.